Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm really excited to share my top 20 favourite watercolours of 2024. So I've made videos like this before in previous years, and I thought it was about time I did an update because I have discovered so many new colours that I absolutely love recently, and I just want to share them with you. So I'm going to swatch them all out on this sheet of watercolour paper. This is the Fabriano Artistico 640 GSM or £300 paper, so it's really thick. It shouldn't buckle, which will be good. I'm going to be doing my pebble swatching, and some of you probably know what that is. If you don't, you'll see as we go along. It's quite self-explanatory, really. But I'm going to be taking watercolours from various palettes that I have. I can't wait to share them with you, so let's get to it. But before we do, I must just remember to mention, because I always forget this until the end, if you enjoy this video, if you find it useful or inspiring, please could you give it a thumbs up, because that helps YouTube to know that people are enjoying the video, and then it will push it out hopefully to more people, which will really help my channel. So that would be fantastic if you could just hit the like button, and if you feel like subscribing also, that would be great too. And don't forget to hit the little notification bell and you'll be notified of any future videos. Okay, let's get swatching. So the first colour we're going to start with is from my warm toned watercolour palette. So traditionally I liked to paint in very cool tones, and I wanted to make a palette that is more warm toned because I'm definitely getting into warmer toned colours. So this palette I put together probably about 6 months or so ago, and I've shared it quite extensively on my Patreon. But we're going to take the first colour from this one, and it's going to be Schmincke Horadam's Forest Grey. So you can see most of these colours are quite warm toned, but I do have some cooler blue greys in there too, because I just love those colours and I think they look really good combined with the warmer tones. Anyway, that was just a little bit about that palette, but yeah, let's start with the Schmincke Horadam Forest Grey. So it's this one here. Let's add quite a bit of water to it. So these aren't in any particular order. It's not like we're counting down from number 20 to number 1. These are just 20 colours that I really, really love at the moment. And also, there could have been many, many others in this list, but I had to stop at 20. So, you know, there are other colours that I love also as much as these ones. So, yeah, I'm just somebody who loves colour, and I've kind of become a bit of a watercolour collector. So I do have quite a few now, but I am a full-time artist and I do use them and I love them and I love sharing them as well. So this colour is like a beautiful dark green. Now you'll see in this list of colours, in this top 20, you'll see quite a few that are very muted, earthy, natural kind of colours. I do tend to err towards those colours when I'm painting, but I hope that there's going to be something for everyone in this list, and I hope that you'll discover some colours that you perhaps didn't know about before. Or maybe I can persuade you to have a newfound love of muted colours if you're somebody who generally prefers brighter colours. I think it can look fantastic when you mix muted colours in with the brighter ones. So this is a gorgeous granulating, colour separating colour. You can see all sorts of different colours coming through there. So it's predominantly a kind of green grey, but you can see brown and a little bit of what looks like blue coming through there as well. Such a gorgeous colour. So the pebble swatching is something that I like to do when I'm swatching colours, because I feel like it's a little bit more interesting than just swatching in like a square or a rectangle, and it creates this gorgeous organic shape. So I always allow a little highlight on the pebbles to give them that kind of 3D quality, and it's really good for swatching because it allows you to see the mass tone, the mid-tone, and how it looks in more of a wash. So I'm hoping that once I've filled this page, it's going to look quite stunning, and I might put this up on the wall of my studio, so we will see. Okay, the next one is going to be a deep light colour. Now, deep light are a handmade watercolour company. They are based in Latvia, and I'm actually one of their ambassadors, I'm very pleased to say. So I love their colours. I use them all the time in my work. And the first one we're going to be looking at is called Meadow Green. This is my deep light palette. It has, I think, 76 different colours in it now, so there's a lot to choose from, and it was difficult to choose my favourite greens because I actually love them all. I find that deep light make the most amazing, natural looking, often quite granulating or textured greens. Some of them, like for example Solstice Fern, which almost made it onto the list. It's kind of colour separating as well, so they're really interesting colours. By the way, if you want to check out deep light, I'll leave a link in the description beneath the video. You also have a discount code as well if you fancy treating yourself, so I'll put that on the screen now, but it'll also be in the description beneath the video. So let's swatch Meadow Green. So this is the one I chose, but honestly, it could have been so many of them. So where are we going to do this one? We don't want to line them up, so I want this to look quite natural. So I'm going to go a bit lower. And the pebbles need to be different shapes as well. So this is how I do it. I just do the outline first. This is such a fun way to swatch. And then we kind of blend it in, leaving a spot in the centre-ish so that we can leave that as a highlight. I know some of you love to mix greens. I love to mix greens too, but there's something lovely about having really natural looking greens in your palette just ready to go. So these colours always work well with a lot of water. So you really get to see the different pigments. Such a gorgeous colour. Goes very well with that Schmincke forest grey as well, doesn't it? Be interesting for me to see how all of these favourite colours look together, because obviously I have them in different palettes and I use them at different times. Gosh, that is a real beauty, isn't it? Okay, the third one on the list is also a deep light colour. Now this is a new one that they've recently released called Wagon Green, and it's a darker green. It's this one here. It's very textured and it looks like it will be granulating. So I only got this one the other day and it's part of their new Albert's palette. So that's a palette of 6 colours, so you can check that out in their shop as well. But Wagon Green just really appealed to me because I love a dark green. These aren't all going to be greens, by the way. It feels like we're doing a lot of greens at the moment, and we are. In fact, we're starting off with quite a few greens, but we're going to move into other colours. I just thought they'd look really nice all swatched together. So this one is the Wagon green. So let's just add a bit of water to that. Let that reactivate for a second. See what I mean about these gorgeous natural looking greens? I feel like this is one of Deep Deep Light's real strengths. They make so many colours that are just inspired by nature and just have such a natural feel when you use them. We're going to add a little bit more because you can kind of build this to make it look quite a bit darker. I'm going to do that around the edges. I know that a few of you swatch your colours like this now. It is a really fun way of doing it because you end up with such a lovely work of art at the end as well. I actually have a video on here from, I think it's a couple of years ago, where I pebble swatch some Schmincke Horadam, I think it's the Schmincke Horadam super granulating colours, and then I decorate the pebbles as well. So once they're dry, I kind of go over the top and decorate them. I should mention the brush I'm using. It's the Hayways No.7 watercolour brush. These are some of my favourite brushes, the Hayways ones. I'm always asked about the brushes, and I often do actually forget to mention which brushes I'm using. So there you go. We're just lifting off a little bit of that. So the next one is going to be from my little Gallo palette. So Gallo are Italian watercolour makers, and I think they count as handmade, even though they sell them through Jackson's Art now as well. So you can get them there, which is fantastic, because when I bought these I could only get them from their site and they had to come from Italy. But I'm going to swatch their olive green deep because this is such an interesting colour. It's another one that's colour separating and granulating, so let's pop that in here. How are we going to do this one? Let's do this one. Maybe just like that. I don't want to do these too big because obviously I've got to fit 20 on this piece of paper. But at the moment it just looks like a green, but you wait until the water starts flowing and then it starts drying. It is an incredible colour. I'd love for you to tell me in the comments section which are your current favourite colours. Maybe, I don't know, your top 3 or your top 5, because I'd love to know. I'm always interested in discovering new colours. So if there's anything you think I'd like, don't hesitate to let me know. And I might even try it out. The Gallo colours also smell incredible when you're using them. I always can smell the rosemary in them. I think it's rosemary. It's a really nice herby smell. It kind of smells like a garden. Really lovely. You can see all those colours starting to appear now. The blue and the yellow are kind of separating out. It turned into quite a round pebble, didn't it? Okay, we'll just stop fiddling with that now and we'll Perhaps let that dry as it is. Or shall I just do a little, actually I'm looking at a little bit here and I'm thinking, just gonna dot a little bit more in there. I mean, you don't want to fiddle with your swatches for too long, but it is quite fun to just move the pigment around and really get that pebbly look as well. Do you see how the Schmincke Forest Grey is actually drying less green now? So it's looking much more grey and we can really see that rust coming through there. Such a pretty colour, and this texture is just gorgeous. So number 5 is another deep light colour, and it's this really interesting, very pale yellowish green. So in a moment we're going to move on to some different colours, but I felt this one had to be included. I think that it might be one of their new colours. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't recall seeing it before, and I only received it the other day, but it has quickly become one of my favourites. It reminds me a little bit, it's like a stronger version of the American Journey Coastal Fog, if any of you know that one. And it's very similar to the Prismacolor Premier coloured pencil Ginger Root. It's, I don't know whether I'd call it a neutral, but it's just this really interesting pale colour that has a hint of green, a hint of yellow. And if you did it in like a real wash, you would have a very, very pale colour. I'm going to try and build it up a little bit. But it's quite unusual because I'm not sure I've seen this exact colour in a watercolour before. As I say, the Coastal Fog is kind of similar, but it's a paler version. But there are some similarities between the two. And actually that almost made it into the list, but I felt like it was a little too similar to this one, so I actually left it out. But Coastal Fog, the American Journey Coastal Fog, is one of my favourite pale neutral kind of colours. I love the name of this as well. Butterfly is such a pretty name for a colour. I can see that this is one I'm going to use a lot, just because it's so soft and subtle, and it works really well with those darker greens as well. The next colour is going to be Wallace Seymour Lakeland Slate. Wallace Seymour are a British watercolour company, and they make a range of what they call vintage watercolours, and I absolutely love them. I have, I think, a couple of videos on their watercolours, and a recent one was when I filled these little etcher palettes, these little ceramic palettes, and I think each one has 19 wells, so there are 38 colours here in total. And we're going to swatch one from this one. This is a really interesting colour. So we'll put that one here. How am I going to do this? Maybe slightly more like that. So this is like a blue, but it also has lots of different colours going on. And it's really granulating. I do love a granulating colour. It's going to be so interesting to see all of these up close when they're dry. You'll see just how different they do actually look. So you might be thinking, I've got some colours here that look a little bit similar to each other, but they are all different. So it can be quite a dark colour, but when you add quite a bit of water, you'll see all of those other colours coming through. So I'm truly going to try not to fiddle with this one too much, because I did end up fiddling with this one and this one quite a lot off camera, and I'm not sure, it wouldn't have been better just to leave them actually. Got to let watercolour do its own thing. So I'm going to leave that one there. We'll let that dry, and then you'll see just how gorgeous that looks. So now we're going to move on to a bigger brand of watercolour. This is in my warm toned watercolour palette, and it's Daniel Smith Burnt Sienna Light. I love a burnt sienna, but then I discovered this one, and it is such a pretty colour. So we'll swatch that in here. It seems to sort of glow, which I really love. It's quite transparent. There you go, something different to the darker blues and greens. Look at how gorgeous that is. Just lift a little bit off. But yeah, it's a really glowy colour. This one works so well with greens, and I've used it in quite a few recent paintings. The next one's in my Fraser Price watercolour palette, and it is called Sombra Tostada. It's a colour by Essee. I'm going to write all of these in a list in the description below as well, so you have a list of them. So where is it on this? It's the 5th one along, so it's that one. It's such a strong, interesting colour. I think it'll look good next to this one, so we're going to do it here. It's such a rich brown, but it's really granulating. It's slightly like that. It's like a kidney bean. I have a few Essee colours, and I've really been enjoying using them. A lot of them seem to be quite unusual, quite unique. It does look like a kidney bean, doesn't it? That's not necessarily a bad thing. See, it has these darker particles that kind of show through. Going to add a little bit more, make it a bit darker around the edges. Let me know, by the way, if you'd like a watercolour palette tour video. Are you interested in that? Would you like to see all of my current watercolour palettes? I can take you through them and show you how I decide to put together palettes, and you know what I use them for and that type of thing. How I decide upon what goes in them. So what's next on the list? Ericius Art's Parodia, and that one is actually in this palette as well. So it's this one here. This is another stunning colour. I'm afraid that the ones that I'm going to share from Ericius Arts, I think she's stopped doing them. They're handmade watercolours, and she's moved more over to pigments that she can like naturally, I think naturally forage, or very natural pigments. So some of her older watercolours, she's stopped doing those. I think I'm right in saying this, so you may not be able to get these. I'm sorry about this, but I needed to share them because they're just so gorgeous. So this looks like a dark sort of mustardy brown when you first lay it down, but all sorts of magic will start happening soon. This is another granulating, colour separating colour. See, there's all sorts going on here. Different pigments separating, and it's giving a really interesting texture. I'm just going to lift off a little bit there and sort of blend it in a bit. Look at that, like a magic watercolour. I love it. I took a little break there and decided to label all the swatches we've done so far, and for that I used one of my Pigma Micron pens in 03, and I also, I must confess, did kind of play around with some of these, just neatening them up a bit and just adding a little bit more depth, or taking a little bit, lifting a little bit of the paint off in places, because I have decided that I want this to look really good, because I want it to be available as a high-res download on my Patreon for my patrons, but also I'm thinking potentially making either a print from it or some postcards or something like that. I think a postcard set full of swatches would look amazing. So I kind of want this to look as good as possible. So I'm being very precise and really taking my time over this one. Anyway, right, let's do the last one of the first 10, which is going to be a Gallo's Harbour Blue, and then we're going to do the final 10. Now this is another stunner. I think you're going to love this one. So should we do that there? I'm kind of thinking, I wonder whether to do it here, because it might look nice. Ooh, I don't know. No, maybe too similar. We'll do it here. We will do it here. Gosh, these smell so incredible, the Gallo paints, every time I wet them. Look at that. How pretty is that colour? It's a lovely, slightly greenish blue, but it really granulates. Just add a lot of water there. So you can really see the blues and greens, sort of as separate colours in this. You see how this is granulating now, and I can see like the black, looks like a black pigment, it's certainly a very dark pigment, is sort of like separating out, and It's like you can kind of see blue and green in this. A really stunning colour. There, I think we'll leave that one like that. Maybe just lift off a little bit there, make it a bit lighter. So the next one's going to be a more subtle colour from the Wallace Seymour Vintage Watercolours range. And this one's called Lapis Ashes. So it's kind of like this blue-grey, gorgeous, slightly grainy colour. Should I do that one quite large? Maybe I will. It's a really subtle colour. And I love those. I love soft colours. Sorry if you're hearing a weird creaking noise, it's because I've pushed the door too, and to block out some of the noise coming from elsewhere in the house. But I have the window open, so it's making the door move. At least I hope it's that and not the ghosts. No, it isn't the ghosts. Look how much paler that is compared to some of these other colours. It does have really fine little, I called them grains earlier, particles is probably a better description actually. I don't know whether you'll be able to see that from this distance, but as I said at the end, I will hold this up so you can have a good look. But yeah, really lovely, subtle blue-grey, misty, and just a nice gentle colour. So the next one is another deep light colour. But it's a new one to me. However, as soon as I saw it online, I knew that I was going to love it. And when I tried it, I really, really loved it. Now, this truly may be one of my favourites ever from Deep Light. It's called Captain's Grey, and it's in the new Albert's palette. But I think, I might be wrong here, but I think you can ask to buy certain colours separately. So you don't have to buy them just within a palette, you can make up your own palettes. Okay, I don't know where to put my palette now because it's so big, and this is getting rather full of swatches now. So I'm just going to move that up slightly. Let's do Captain's Grey here. And this is another granulating, colour separating watercolour, and I just love it. I think it'd be so brilliant for so many different nature subjects and landscapes. I can't wait to really start using it in my work. I mean, as I say, I only got this one the other day, but as soon as I swatched it out, I was like, I'm in love with this colour, so I had to include it. Because I thought, I know there are going to be some of you who will love it too. And it always makes me so excited when I discover a new colour. I immediately want to share it. I think this would be brilliant for trees, rocks, distant hills. I can imagine doing like a bird in this. I just love how all the different colours come through, and it's like there's just so much texture I mean, look at that. Funnily enough, it's fantastic for painting pebbles with. Just lift a bit off there. Let that kind of run into there a bit. I mean, look at that. I don't know whether you can see from this distance, but as I said, I will hold it up. Oh my goodness, it's just the most perfect nature colour. I just love the name of it too. Captain's Grey is just such a nice name. Deep Deep Light come up with some great names for their paints. So the next one's going to be from my warm toned watercolour palette, and it's going to be the Holbein Artists Grey of Grey. The most subtle, cool, soft blue grey. Just such a pretty colour and so useful for so many things. Shall we make that one a little bit longer so it kind of goes up there? I'm having to hold the palette in one hand. I can't rest it on the desk anymore because I don't have enough space. Look how pretty this colour is. I'll put the palette over there. I think this one actually featured in one of my favourites from a couple of years ago. And I still love it. I find myself using it all the time. It's really good if you like a more subtle sky in your work. You don't want like a really bright blue. This makes an amazing sky, especially if you really use lots of water. It becomes sort of very misty, and it really works well for clouds, and it just looks fantastic. I'm just going to lift a bit out. So this isn't a granulating colour, it's just, it doesn't really do anything special other than it's just incredibly pretty. But yeah, one of my all-time favourites, this one. Reminds me very much of their Misty Blue, which is an acrylic gouache colour that they do, which I also am obsessed with. The next one is in this little palette box, and it's an Ericius Arts colour called Asphodel. And this is also another really interesting colour. So where can we put that? We'll just pop that there. What shape shall we do? Maybe we'll do it so it goes up there a little bit. And round like that. It's another granulating one. And the pigments separate, which you'll probably be able to see a bit more once we have allowed it to dry. I love it because you can see a sort of reddish brown and a dark greyish blue as well. There's so much going on in this colour. It's a really good one actually for pebbles. Do you know, looking at it is reminding me slightly of a darker version of Captain's Grey. They're kind of similar in that I can see this dark bluish pigment coming through on both of them, yet they have overall they look quite brown. So yeah, there's something similar going on there. The next one's in my warm toned watercolour palette, and it's the Isaro Payne's Grey. This is a particularly lovely Payne's Grey because it's incredibly dark and it's just sort of like this, I think it's quite a blue one really. It's kind of like an inky blue, but absolutely love it. I love the depth of it. And Isaro paints, I believe, are made in Belgium. If I'm not right about that, I'll put it on the screen, but I think they are. I have a few of them and I have been really impressed with them. I bought mine from Jackson's. Beautiful for night skies. If you're into painting the night like I am. Has a nice bit of granulation going on there too. I love so many Payne's greys. I think there probably are several that could have made it into this top 20 favourite watercolours, but this really is a good one. So if you like a really dark blue type of Payne's grey, this is a good one for you. That's so nice. Another favourite from my warm-toned watercolour palette is the Roman Szmal Urban Grey. This is one of their newer colours. I think it was released last year. Anyway, it reminds me a bit of Schmincke Horadam's Random Grey, which featured in a previous favourite watercolours, I'm sure. I was really pleased to see that they'd brought out this colour. I'm going to make this quite a big one over here to fill in this space. Try not to put too much pigment. Well, I'm not going to add any more because I've actually applied this quite heavily. I'm going to add a bit more water in a minute. But it has that granulation and that colour separation again that I really love, and that I loved in the Random Grey by Schmincke. You sort of see a bit of blue, it's slightly violety, it's slightly brown. I absolutely love this colour for distant hills. This is what I've been using it for. But it's also great if you want to paint a stormy sky. Just make sure you add lots of water. Lift some of that off because I was a bit heavy-handed, wasn't I? Okay, now I've taken some off, I'm just going to add a little bit around the edge there. Let it flow into the part where I put lots of water. The next one is another one from my warm-toned watercolour palette, and I have a few Davy's Greys. I really like Davy's Grey, a bit like Payne's Grey. Every single brand does it slightly differently, and so today I'm going to share the Winsor & Newton version of Davy's Grey. This is a little bit, I would say, paler, softer than a few of the other Davy's Greys I have. But they're all lovely. I feel like Davy's Grey is a really useful colour to have if you're into painting landscapes or like botanical subjects, nature subjects. I love the subtlety of it. So you see in this selection there are no pinks and reds and bright yellows or purples or anything like that, because they're just not the colours that I use in my work or really get excited about. I know that some people love them, and that's the wonderful thing, is that we all love different things. And so there's something for everyone. It's like, I enjoy watching artists paint with pastel colours and brighter colours, but for some reason I just don't gravitate towards them for my own work. So I've kind of learned to lean into my preferred colour palette, and it just works for me. And I hope that this kind of video will inspire you to, I don't know, just have faith in your own choices, like in your own colour choices. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Get inspiration from other people. And if you find someone whose colour choices align with yours, then it's a really great thing. It's so lovely to see how somebody who has the same like preferences as you, how they work, and you can really get inspired by that. But always just have faith in your own colour choices. I think when you stay true to yourself and the colours you love, you'll find that they somehow seem to work together. I'm frequently surprised by that, because sometimes I'll buy a selection of colours that I think are going to work together. I've done it consciously, but other times I'll just be picking and choosing a few colours I really like, not really thinking that they're going to be a palette, and then they work as a palette. I think it's because I have this strong sense of what I like and dislike. Anyway, look at that, a lovely subtle grey-green. We're going back to the little palette now, and it's the one in the centre. This is the Wallace Seymour Payne's Grey Original, and you'll see that it's not like your normal Payne's Grey. It's very pale, it's very grey, it's not blue like this one. And as with all Wallace Seymour paints, well, not all of them, a lot of them, it if you look closely, it kind of has these little particles in it. But it's such a pretty soft grey. This one is perfect for overcast skies and slightly stormy seas. These are going to fit in here perfectly, aren't they? Because I've got 2 more after this. I didn't plan this out beforehand, so it's just worked out really well. I guess because I'm doing it nice and slowly and I'm sort of considering where to put things. I've just really enjoyed filming this video and swatching these out for you. I hope you've enjoyed it too. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if you have a favourite of these colours that I've swatched today. Which one is it? And do you think you'll be getting any of these for your own palette? See, it's a very subtle colour, this Payne's Grey Original. Just going to lift a bit of that off. I love this texture it has. Our penultimate colour is Asphalt from Deep Deep Light. Now this is one I use for monochromatic painting because I can just get such a wide variety of tones from it. And if I remember, I will insert a picture here. So editing Natasha, insert a picture here showing a painting where I just used this colour and no other colours. The only thing I used for a few details was whitewash on top, but the only colour I used in that painting was Asphalt. And it was just a brilliant colour to work with monochromatically. It's granulating, so it has a lot of texture. And you'll see it's a sort of muted greyish violet colour, but it has all sorts of different colours coming through when it dries, so you'll see that in a bit. You can see a bit of brown in there. It's really, really lovely. It's a very atmospheric colour. Look at that granulation. It's one of my most used colours actually in this tin. So yeah, if you're looking for a good colour to work in monochromatically, I would highly recommend this one. And I would also recommend Natasha's Grey, which Deep Deep Light developed for me. In fact, I've had the opportunity to create two colours with them. One is called Starry Night, and it's a really dark midnight blue-black with a very subtle gold shimmer. That was in the latest palette that I curated for them, called Whatever the Weather. And my first palette, Mellow Days and Cozy Nights, was the one that we developed Natasha's Grey for. And I thought about including both of those colours in my top 20 favourites, but you know what? I thought I'm going to go with colours that I haven't had a hand in making, because it goes without saying that those two are my favourites. But yeah, Natasha's Grey is another colour I really like to work monochromatically in, because you can get such a wide variety of tone. So yeah, look at that. Asphalt is just, it is stunning. I love the granulation and the colour separation in this. You see, there's a bit of a theme with the colours I like, isn't there? I think I said that earlier. But yeah, love a bit of colour separation, as long as it's, I don't know, fairly subtle. We don't want anything too crazy. But I do love granulation. I really love granulating watercolours, and that is a brilliant one. Okay, so finally we're on to the last one, and this is one from my warm toned watercolour palette, and it's the American Journey French Grey. This is a really lovely, soft, almost like a neutral colour, but it's sort of beige, it's sort of pink. It's just a really pretty colour. And it looks wonderful with sort of darker greyish violets and also greens. Works really well with greens. Yeah, it's quite pale, but I just love it so much. It's just such a gorgeous colour to work on top of, and I mean, use as a subtle base colour for, like, you know, when the sky has that very slight pink hue. It's really good for that. Sometimes you just want a colour that's just like a hint of a colour. This is kind of like that. I can't believe we've come to the end. But don't they all look fantastic together? It's so nice to see some of my absolute favourites all swatched out together. It's so fun to perhaps frame this and put this up on the wall. But first I need to either scan it or photograph it, and I think we need to make something out of this, don't we? Maybe make it available as a print or something. I have been asked for prints of my swatch charts before, so I've always said that I'm going to do it, and maybe it's about time I actually did it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these to dry fully, and then I'll hold them up to the camera and you can have a really close look at them before I say goodbye.